Howdy, howdy, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Katie will be joining us very shortly. She's just upstairs sorting the kids. We decided to put them to bed early with a film so we could do this earlier because then it gives us more of an evening. But I hope you're all having a lovely day. As I mentioned up in my little message, you should go follow my Instagram account because I'm starting to do more written texts as well as like the videos and stuff. So I definitely recommend you go check out the Instagram account. It's Mind Over This Matrix, which obviously most of you will probably already be able to guess. If we could all like this live stream as well, it just really helps push it out to more people. You never know, they might ask a question you didn't know you needed the answer to, and all that good stuff. So I don't think there's anything else to talk about. So with that out of the way, I'm going to start getting into some of the comments. H says, much regards and gratitude to Matt, Katie, Joey, Akshay, and Nick. Presence of great coaches like you guys reiterates my desire to do inner work, not just work for instant gratification. Not just work for instant gratification. I will be a person who enjoys his rich life, not just lottery manifester. Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that we're an inspiration to you guys, not only just Katie and I, but also the other coaches as well, because there's a lot of great people in this space as well. It's not just me and Katie. I know I'm aware that there's a lot of others great ones out there. So it's really good to hear that you have other people as well that you can aspire to learn from and everything. So that's great. And yeah, absolutely. Chase those long-term gratifications. Instant gratification will never get you anywhere. It will keep you stuck. And as a result, you just kind of, well, you'll feel stuck. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to be, you're using us as reference and using us as inspiration to become, the best version of yourself. And then you also say, yo, I know people say don't discuss your manifestation with anyone, but this guy is going to have SP and a new motorcycle soon. That's great. I'm glad to hear that you've got that confidence and you know that's going to happen, because that's definitely the first step. As for not discussing your manifestation, it's generally best not to, purely because of the fact that if they start speaking stuff into your ears and concerning you with what they're saying, then many people will use that as like a bad thing. Like if someone's saying, oh, well, you can't do that, you shouldn't do this because of XYZ thing, most people will take that in and start to think, maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe it is a bad thing, and all of those kinds of thoughts, and that's what creates the problem. So if you can just do it without caring about what anybody says, then yeah, by all means talk to whoever you want about whatever you want, as long as obviously it's not reiterating the old story. But yeah, if you find yourself swayed very easily by other people's opinions, then it probably is best to keep it to yourself. Autumn says hello, howdy. Danielle says good luck with that, H. Absolutely. H says, I actually said to Joey once that most of the stuff about manifestation is known. Point is to do the work. Yes, once you watch a handful of videos from people such as myself, Joey, a couple of other ones out there, yeah, you don't really need to watch any more videos. It's just all about application. Other than that, you're all good, really. Knowing is what, 25% of the grade. Application is the other 75%. My brain couldn't do quick maths then, because I was also looking at what Kate was doing, which she's here right now. Hello. Oh, we've had a donation. Cold Cat TV says, what's up, Matt? Oh, they donated $49. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate such a large donation. Thank you so much.
That's crazy.
What's up, Matt? Thanks for all you do, fam. Hope you're having a beautiful day. And most know I'm getting coaching soon. Thanks for all you do, man. I appreciate your help along my manifestation journey. Best wishes, O'Shea. Well, again, thank you very much for the donation. It's so extremely kind of you. And, thank you so much for the kind words as well. We do our absolute best to try and show up as much as we can for as many people as we can. And we're happy to know that so many people do appreciate that, and it makes a difference. And if you do end up coming to me for coaching, by all means, I extremely look forward to working with you some more. But thank you very much again for the donation. And then back where I was. And then H says, also, shout out to Katie for being able to drill it into my head that past events don't matter. Do you want to say anything on that?
You're welcome, I guess. But yeah.
Awesome. Danielle says, I wonder if Matt would ever consider publishing books about manifestation and his life experiences from it. I would definitely buy them. So I haven't actually thought about publishing manifestation books. However, I actually do have, and I'm not going to tell you where you can find it just because I don't think it's that good. I literally wrote it in a night and then published it the same night. I actually do have a short story that is available to be bought. I might one day just read it on a live stream just for you guys. It's like 99p, but and I actually do have another novel that I've been working on. I haven't really worked on it for probably about 1.5 years now. I kind of hit a bit of a wall, but I have another novel that I am in the midst of, probably about halfway through. And a lot of people that have read it, because obviously I have test readers and stuff, have said that they absolutely love it and have basically asked me to continue writing it. but that's obviously nothing to do with manifestation. That's a completely different thing. Although funny you should say that, actually. The story isn't about me, because I'll be honest, other than autobiographies, I think people that write books about themselves in different lives is a bit strange. But this story does have a lot of things that I experienced along with other people close to me. It's like an amalgamation of different life events kind of thrown into one, but with these specific characters. And a lot of people said that they really like it, so I might be finishing that soon. I've been toying with the idea, so I might be finishing that soon, and then maybe that's something that you guys could check out. But as for manifestation books, haven't really thought about it yet. I could potentially do one in the future, maybe, but at the moment, I haven't really considered it.
I was just going to say, I think that he definitely should. And like all of the worksheets that he's putting, like making and stuff like that, I think should all be put into like a book, and like along with obviously some stuff sort of thing. I don't know how to make a book or write a book, but I feel like I could do all of the arty bits and it would look quite pretty. But yeah, sorry.
maybe I'll take it into consideration and go from there. Autumn says, why is it if you're positively manifesting for months and one day you start questioning your manifestation, the negative seems to override the positive more? Why is this? Thank you. So it's very difficult for me to sort of give you a direct answer based on your experiences, because the thing that I've picked up a lot from people that I've worked with is people think that they're doing better a lot more than they are, and that's obviously not like a necessarily bad thing, but I do find that a lot of people think that they do like incredible work, and then they actually got quite a lot of thoughts going on that are not from the end result or actually of the opposing. But the reason why you may find that the negatives tends to show up a lot quicker than the positive, especially if you're already in a negative scenario, is because it doesn't have to change anything. You know, like if, let's say, for example, you're in no contact with someone and you're doing like great work to be manifesting it, you're living from the end, all of that good stuff. And then you start like really panicking one day. You're panicking about something that's already in front of you, and therefore it doesn't need to change in order to be true, or it getting worse doesn't really have to happen. Like, not really a lot has to happen to make that happen, because you're already like pretty much halfway there because you're in the no contact area. So quite often, especially if you're in a negative scenario, that's why it seems like it just happens so much easier. If you're already halfway down that route, you're going to get more of it. Kind of like that, something that's an object in motion stays in motion kind of way of thinking. But like I said, a lot of the time people say that they've been doing stuff for months, and then you'll like, especially with the people that a lot of people that I've worked with one-on-one, they were like, yeah, you know, I know everything. I've been doing loads. I just don't know what's going wrong. And then after a little bit of poking and prodding, you realize they're actually probably doing an hour's worth of living from the end, and then the rest of the time they're worrying and they're doubting and they're fearing, which is still obviously quite a lot of time. And that's probably potentially, obviously this may not apply to you, but something that may be the case. You may be doing a lot of conscious work, but just not really keeping track of what's going on when you're not really thinking about it. And that's kind of what's playing out. But generally, like I said, an object in motion stays in motion. This is why stuff like when it rains, it pours, the rich get richer. Those kinds of statements are there because once you are something or experiencing something, it's very easy for that momentum to carry through. An amazing example of this, actually, I used to have this belief. It's not necessarily not anymore, but it's something that doesn't play out as much anymore because I don't really repeat it to myself anymore. I used to have this belief that I get so many things for free. And there was like this period of like, it must have been about 2 or 3 weeks where just every single day there was something new for free. Like one day my mate would like order me like lunch or something for like, and just be like, here, have it. And then a couple of days later, or like a day later, something else will happen for free. And every time I was like, see, I just get stuff for free. And it's because it was in that like momentum. And therefore it just kept happening because I was already in that flow state of receiving. That was a good time. That was a really good time.
I have that with every kind of like little tiny purchase that I make. Every time I have like a tiny purchase, I need to work on it so that it works with bigger purchases as well. But like, for example, my tarot readings are like £15-ish, I think. So I have this assumption that every time I order, you know, something small online that's under £15, it's fine because I'm going to make that money back straight away. And that just works. I need to work out how to do it for bigger things, right? So that I can just like buy massive things and then get that money back straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. Carolina says, hey, what's your best way to get yourself back into the state? I can't seem to get out of anxiety-filled state even after identifying why it's there. Okay, so if you've identified why it's there, have you then addressed why it's there? So if you're anxious because you fear that you may not be good enough, for example, Are you targeting that element of, making yourself feel good enough, prioritizing yourself, giving yourself what it is that your anxiety is kind of being triggered by? Because quite often uh, we'll have these feelings because we lack something inside, or we're concerned about something because we feel like it may go wrong due to something about us. For example, if you feel like you may not be good enough for something, once you start addressing that element of yourself, start actually realizing your self-worth and your self-value and all of that, then you won't be so concerned, because you'll be like, actually, no, why would that not happen? I already know that I'm good enough for it anyway. So then, and then that kind of addresses the anxiety. So just because you don't fully explain it based on your comment, are you actually working on why it's there? And if you are, and you're still having the anxiety, then we can obviously come up with some different ideas. But that would be the next place that I would go based on what you said there. Go.
Sorry, I was just going to say as well, have you done anything sort of like physically to make yourself feel less anxious? So like, I don't obviously, like when you're in the middle of a panic attack, there are certain techniques that you can do to like ground yourself, which then makes you feel a lot better, because usually the sort of spiral of an anxiety attack kind of, that fear and that anxiousness is actually just your fight or flight. And it thinks that it needs to fight something right now, sort of thing. So a really good technique to stop it in the moment is to ground yourself in some way, like have a drink, smell something, tap the floor, kind of thing. And obviously those don't work when you're in like a long state of anxiety, but there are certain things that you can do to pull yourself out, actually, like physically, as well as like, identifying what's causing you the anxiety. First of all, remove the thing that's causing you the anxiety, and then do some things that you find the most relaxing and calming and stuff like that, to actually pull yourself out of it physically as well. So like, I mean, the same kind of things can be done, as in like grounding things. You can, I don't know, have like a bath, and therapists always tell you to do that, and it's not always like helpful, but like have like a nice relaxing bath or something like that. Like it's all good knowing what's causing you the anxiety, but actually physically push it away from yourself, remove it, and then make yourself feel better in that moment, and then go back to thinking about whatever it is that caused it in the first place, before you then process how you can change it internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saloni says, hi, Matthew. Howdy, howdy. Luck the Awesome says, hi, Matt. Does affirming feel exhausting sometimes? I think it does if you're forcing yourself to do it a lot. Like I don't affirm religiously throughout the day. I'll affirm a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, or like when I'm falling asleep. And then kind of when I have time during the day, for example, when doing the washing up or putting the washing away or something like that. And that for me personally I don't find that exhausting, because it's within the realm of what I'd already be doing. When I'm like when I first wake up, got the energy to do it. Just before I go to sleep, I'm not really focusing on it all that much, quite easy. And then just while I'm doing chores, my mind would probably be running off doing something anyway, so I might as well utilize it. And for me, that works fine. However, in the past, when I have tried to do like non-stop all day, just constant repetition, yes, it has become quite exhausting at that time. And if you're at that place, I would recommend maybe dialing it down a little bit, just to try and, build that energy back up, build up that desire to continue again, and then get back on it. You're not going to kill your manifestation by taking a little bit of a step back. While you're taking a step back, what I would recommend you do is fill that time with other things that you enjoy, just so that you're not like focusing on the negative, but just not bothering to affirm. You're at least staying on top of thoughts and enjoying yourself and having a good time, with the rest of the affirmations and such that you're doing. But yeah, there have been times that I've experienced that, and I found that just taking a little bit of a step back was what worked best for me. Oh, I skipped. Shaita says, I'm affirming for my long distance SP. You got any advice for me? Also, thank you so much for these live sessions. It means a lot. First off, you're very welcome for the live sessions. Thank you for the support of the channel. If we could all like the live as well, it just helps to push it out a bit more. As for the affirming for long distance for your SP, the advice that I would have for you is, first off, stop it repeating if you are, obviously I know you have to mention it here for the purposes of your question, but try to stop looking at the distance as an element. Manifesting a long distance SP is the exact same as manifesting a next door neighbor SP. Your aim is to focus on the end result of being together. Now, obviously, I know your situation might be slightly different, and there could be some variables that you want to consider. For example, do you want it to stay long distance? Do you want you to move to them to move to you? How do you want that kind of stuff to go? And then I would advise you adding that into affirmations. So for example, if you wanted to move to where they are, You could have an affirmation such as, let's say they live in New York. I'm so happy to be living in New York with my specific person, insert name, or I'm so happy to be living in New York with specific name, who is my partner, or whatever you kind of want to refer to it as. But the aim would be to identify what you want your end result to be, and then start claiming to yourself that end result is in existence, and leave out the distance as a limitation. Yes, you can include it in your affirmations if you want a specific outcome, but stop looking at it as, oh, it's harder because they're long distance. It's still just manifesting a person. It's still going to be the same process. Juhi says, I listen to night affirmations on low volume, but I'm unable to hear them consciously. If I increase the volume, it's disturbing. Will it work on low volume? So I actually can't say for sure for like affirmations tapes. The only reason I say that is because for subliminals, I know like the affirmation audio is so low that we can't consciously pick it up, but you generally can pick up the sounds and stuff that you're listening to consciously. So I don't know if you're putting it so low that your phone just doesn't play a volume, whether that would be picked up, because obviously there's no volume leaving it. However, if it's like so quiet that you can barely hear it, but the volume is there, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, it will still be picked up, because your subconscious mind will pick up on subliminals. That is more of an educated guess as opposed to an absolute fact, just because I'm basing that on the idea that if subliminals work, then in theory, if you can only just about hear the music, or there's only just about hear the affirmations in the affirmations tape, and they are actually playing some kind of volume, then your subconscious mind should still be able to pick up on it. But if you're playing it so low that your phone isn't actually emitting any sound, then I would go on a limb on that and say no. Hang on. Oh yeah, cool. Solani says, hi, Katie.
Hi.
Hey, you're beautiful says, hi, friends. Howdy,
Hi.
howdy. H says, also, Matt, what do you do in a case when our overall state of mind is very negative? So much so that we even have negative dreams, like an actual sad song in dream. How to sustain feeling in such a case? So if I find that my overall kind of state is that of negativity, I'll sit and kind of understand why. Because generally, most people will allow one specific thing to kind of dictate everything. Like if you're having a bad day at work, you'll come home and you'll kind of take that into how you deal with your partner. You'll take that into your gym session, or how you interact with your kids, or how you, even if you play games, like how you play games and stuff. So a lot of the time, if we do have an overall negative state, it's probably narrowed down to one or two things that are like really bad, that's like kind of getting to us. But what I would recommend, because that might not be the situation for you, is to at least sit there and understand the things that are making your state negative. Once you understand them, you can start finding ways to navigate past them. So if you find that you're just so pent up on an old story of something and that's really getting to you, finding ways to relieve yourself from that old story, finding ways to practice forgiveness, or to let go of the old story, or to provide yourself the fulfillment from that thing. And then hopefully by tackling it at its root cause, that will build you up a little bit and make your sort of time a bit better. But separately for that, and one thing that I think a lot of people do need to remember, because once you kind of enter the manifestation rabbit hole, sometimes it can be difficult to remember that this is actually a viable option, but that's enjoying life. Like doing more things that make you feel like you're having a good time while manifesting something, or kind of just gives you things to put your mind on separately. For example, for me, obviously I'm in a band, and my band is completely separate to everything I do. My band is something that I literally go away from my house to do. While I'm there, I'll do some emails and some YouTube comments and stuff like that, but generally I will focus more on the music. And I'll find myself being able to, even though the travel is quite long and there's sometimes we can have some frustrating sessions, I'll find that that's a very good release from me, because I'm allowing myself to step out of my entire normality of life and go somewhere else and just sort of release and de-stress and all that. And I think that having things that you enjoy and having goals and hobbies and purpose and all of that away from manifestation, or away from conscious manifestation, can be very good for a lot of people, because we get so caught up on, I can just affirm for it. And then people forget that you can also just live your life. And that's one thing that I would recommend, is if you can find the root causes of them, try doing that and working on them. And separately, just create some things in your life that you enjoy that are separate from your specific desire, and just have fun living. Because it's great being able to affirm a person in, but if you're going to hate your life and like be in a negative state the entire time while trying to do that, then you're not really enjoying the experience. You're just kind of living until it comes back, I suppose. Autumn says, question for Katie, please. What do you think of the candle and crystals manifestation? Does this help more with manifesting, attracting your desires too? Thank you.
Yeah, so I I don't know if there is a very specific thing that you're talking about in that question, but if you just mean candles and crystals in general, I 100% believe that they help attract things. I like to assign them a very particular task and then just leave them to do it for me, because I'm kind of all over the place all the time and I forget to do things like affirm, other than when I'm driving alone. I forget to do things. So I like to kind of place, sort of assign meaning to a particular thing. So a candle, a crystal, and be like, this is pulling in this for me. And I find it works very, very well, because once you kind of set it, you then don't panic about whether or not you've done it enough, whether or not you have thought about it enough. You don't tend to think about it at all, kind of thing, once you've given it to someone else, if that makes sense, but you're not actually giving it to someone else. And hold on 1 second. 1 second.
I was going to talk while she's gone. I have no idea where she's gone and why. I haven't got anything to talk about.
No, so I just wanted to show you this as well. So this is something that I've made, that is success powder. So it's a blend of different things, each bringing in something else, each having a different meaning, kind of thing. And you can choose what success you want from this powder. I like to sprinkle it in all of my candles, like every candle I light. And as I'm sprinkling it and lighting the candle, I think about exactly what it is that I want to bring in, and pretty much instantly I get some kind of movement, some kind of sign, or some kind of full manifestation come in, kind of thing. So that, if you what was I going to say? If you want to find out how I made it, it's on my TikTok, or just message my Instagram and I'll send you the recipe, kind of thing. But I 100% believe in candles and crystals, and you can give them all of your tasks and then just completely forget about them, kind of thing. So yeah.
I was actually I remember what I was going to say. I do find as well that sometimes that actually happens with my coaching clients as well, that they'll be doing everything perfectly right. And in some cases, we don't actually need to address anything. And then they go away and get their manifestation. And quite often, it's not actually the fact that they were doing anything wrong, but it was the idea that they weren't 100% certain within themselves and therefore kept thinking they were doing something wrong, and it didn't work. And then by coming to me and sort of talking it through and then getting the confirmation that what they're doing is right, they kind of handed that burden away, because they were like, oh, well, this person who I look up to has said that it works, what I'm doing, therefore I can trust it. And then just by trusting what they were doing and committing to it was more than enough. So quite often, yes, as Katie says, sort of handing it to something else or putting your intention in something else can be quite a good thing to do, to sort of take some of that feeling of it's just you and only you that's doing it away.
Yeah, definitely alleviates a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And once you've set it the meaning, you never really have to think about it again. Obviously you do, because when things are coming to you, you think about them and you get excited and stuff like that. But you never really have to, sit there and beat yourself up over the fact that you haven't done enough to bring it in. Because that's something that I'm really bad at. I will just sit there and absolutely berate myself, be like, oh, I'm absolutely terrible, I'm just rubbish at this, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously it just makes everything take longer. So me giving it to something else is a great way for me to bring stuff in.
Geneva says, hello, Matt and Katie. No LOA question, but how old are you two? And it's funny, and it's always funny to see you because you so much look like my younger cousin. I don't know which one you're talking about looks like your younger cousin, but I'll take it. I'm 25. I'm going to let Katie decide whether or not she wants to answer that question, but I'm 25 young years old.
I am just about that age.
She's somewhere within that ballpark.
No, I'm 28.
Yeah, getting old.
Yeah, 29 at the end of the year. This is my last year in my 20s, my last full year. Next year I'm 30.
I still got a little while to go. I'm gonna get beaten up after this.
I'm gonna go cry now.
H says, to guys here working on themselves, red pill content is actually good for start and getting your hands out of your underwear and to the gym. So red pill content is very good in a lot of ways, but you have to know how to utilize it to your best benefit. Quite often what I see happening, and I'm an advocate for red pill content. I'm definitely not saying this as some sort of outsider to it. Quite often what can happen is people will expect the results of red pill content far before they reach the point where red pill content actually gets them results. And what this can end up doing is it can end up creating a bit of a toxic mindset. And I don't mean toxic as in like toxic masculinity, because I think toxic masculinity is quite often just people being masculine again in a world where masculinity is frowned upon. But I mean, quite literally being derogatory, quite literally being horrible, because they expect the results before they actually are at a point where they should get those results. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I was one of those people. When I first found the red pill content, I started thinking like, oh, this, that, and blah, blah, blah. I don't see why it's not working for me. And then I would blame it on everybody else and then realize actually I wasn't shit myself. So yes, any guys in here working on themselves, red pill content is a great place to start. But please become the people, or become the best version of yourself before you start expecting and demanding those results. Otherwise, you just come across like an asshole, to be honest. And this is coming from someone that actually did that same thing myself. If there's one thing that I could recommend, it would be just please do the work before you start expecting the results, please. Otherwise, it just will make everything a whole lot worse. Empowered Sister says, really appreciate your videos. Thank you very much. What's your opinion on me not having a strong desire to affirm anymore? Now I do it because my desire crossed my mind, but haven't been obsessed with affirming. So quite often, I think that this is a good place to be. The reason being, when you have your desire, let's say you're manifesting a relationship, when you have your desire, quite often it is normal. Like you don't sit there all day, every day thinking about your partner. They might cross your mind on occasion, or you might sit there and think, oh, like I wonder what we're having for dinner tonight, or I wonder if we've got any plans or stuff like that. But you'll find that they don't cross your mind 24/7. So yes, I do think that the sort of consistent affirming is useful to get your subconscious mind into that state, especially if you kind of feel yourself worrying about the old story on occasion. But if you find yourself getting to a point where you just don't want to affirm, quite often, I find that to be a good thing, especially if you've done consistent work prior and worked on self-concept and worked on living in the end. Because when something is yours, it is normal to have. Think about it like when you get a new phone. This is probably the best example, or a new car. The first few days, it's like, look at this car, I'm going to go out in it. Or look at this phone, I'm going to show everyone my new phone. I'm going to just go on it just for the sake of going on it. But eventually it becomes normal, and then you don't even really remember that it's new. You can still appreciate it, but you just don't really think about it like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And that's how I kind of see affirming is at the beginning, when it's a big desire. Yeah, you feel well inspired to affirm and all that lot. But after it becomes more normal and your subconscious mind starts taking in this story more and more, it becomes more normal to have it, which is quite often not when it's a strong desire to have. So I do think that where you're at is a good place. And as long as you're keeping track of your thoughts when they come up, and as you say, when it crosses your mind affirming, you should be all good, because it's your dominant state that manifests. Now, if you only have 10 thoughts about a desire and 6 of those are dominant, 6 of those are from the end result, that's just as dominant from a percentage standpoint as having 1,000 thoughts and 600 of those being from the end result. So the less thoughts you have, the less you have to focus on the end result, and the easier it is to manifest. So I actually think that you're in a good place based on what I just explained there. H says, but consume red pill content with a pinch of salt if you're manifesting an SP. I'm not sure in which regard you mean, but that does, I would say, consume it with a pinch of salt as an overall standpoint, not because of the content itself, but because of the way that people can interpret it and end up doing stupid things and making themselves an absolute asshole, like I did a long time ago.
Yeah. And also, I would definitely say some of the content is just not it.
Oh yeah, it depends where you go.
I think that a lot of the time people are like, oh yeah, this is the red pill mindset, and it's really not. It's just some loser that wants 100 girlfriends and wants it to be socially acceptable and wants to act like a dick, and that kind of thing. There's like two different sides to it. There's some people who are, I don't particularly watch it, but I have definitely seen some clips of things that should just never ever be said on the internet, never be said in general. And I think that a lot of that ends up being called red pill when it's actually not. It's just some dickhead being a dick, basically.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. There's always going to be, in every industry, not just red pill, but manifestation, football, anything. There's always the people that have what they think it is, and then the people that actually know what it is. So just like he says, just take a little pinch of salt and just be careful in it.
There's also always people as well that, like, in everything, that just act so smart that they get hundreds of thousands of people just believing exactly what they said because of the way they put it across. And they could be telling you that, the sky is bright red all the time, and just people start to believe it, and they're just like, oh yeah, it really is. It's not blue at all, sort of thing. Like, just because of the way they put things across, I think it's really important to like not just like blindly listen to things, because everything is just some crazy people that are just going to tell you something with such conviction that you're going to be like, yes.
Thu Guen, apologies if I said that wrong. Is it okay if I affirm in future tense? Thanks. Thank you, best coach ever. Well, thank you very much for the kind words. I would generally recommend you do it in present or past. The reason being, your subconscious mind pushes out a direct reflection of the state of consciousness you're operating at the time that you're saying it. Now, if you're saying I have this, then that implies that it's in your possession. If you're saying like I am this or I'm receiving this, that implies it's coming to you literally in this moment. But if you say I will have this, let's say it's money. Let's say you say I will have £100,000. Your state of consciousness right now is that of not currently having it, but will one day, which means you won't be receiving it anytime soon. And if you stay in that, for every day that you tell yourself, I will have this, you'll be continuing to feed the idea that it's a future event, continuously pushing it forward and forward and forward and forward. So I would recommend that you do focus on having it now or in the past, but it's entirely up to you. But generally, future tense isn't the most optimal.
If you're always thinking that you'll have it tomorrow, it will always be tomorrow and it will never be now.
Drakeri Snow says, at Empowered Sister, I have the same question. Don't want to affirm, barely want to visualize. I'm met about it, and when it crosses my mind, then I'm met about it, and when it crosses my mind, but otherwise, is there a further question? No. Okay, so yeah, same thing as I mentioned earlier. Quite often, it's a better place to be in than feeling like a severe desire to do stuff nonstop all day, every day. All I would say is just keep an eye on your thoughts when they come up, or keep an eye on your desire, the thoughts of your desire as they come up, and then kind of continue going, living from the end. Then, when the thought passes, then go back into whatever it is that you're doing. Shaita says, should I avoid all types of social media and just affirm for my SPE? Because whenever I'm on social media, I see him with the third party and I get really sad. So I would recommend you remove the things that trigger you most. If you have to remove your entire social media and you feel like that's the best thing for you to do, then go ahead. But I reckon you could just mute the account or delete them or block them or something. I don't feel like you have to remove the entirety of your social medias just because of the fear of seeing them. And quite often, what will happen as well is this kind of goes back into that thing that I mentioned earlier about that sort of manifestation pitfall. People are so concerned about running into triggers that they start removing things in their lives, and therefore they only have themselves and their thoughts to sit with. And that's when they start feeling trapped. They start feeling obsessed because they've removed everything else from the outside and only focusing on this thing. I actually had a client, one of my first ever clients actually, who basically did just that. They removed social media. They stopped going to the gym because their partner went to that same gym. They stopped doing another activity that I think it was dancing, which they used to do with their partner. They stopped playing the games that they used to play together. They literally stopped doing basically everything because it either reminded them of their partner or there was the potential that they would run into their partner there. Now, instead of like moving gym or playing different games or something, they just straight up removed everything. And then it basically said that they felt like they were sitting in a box. And it's like, well, yeah, because you basically stopped yourself from doing all the things that you once enjoyed, whether it was with them or not, you once enjoyed. And now you have nothing to do to take your mind off of it. So now all you're doing is sitting with your thoughts, constantly trying to battle them, which, as most of you may have experienced, when in the heat of a breakup or when in the heat of like obsession over your person, is a very difficult thing to do. So I don't think you necessarily have to remove everything, just the things that specifically are triggering you. However, if you do feel it would be best for you to move everything, then it's up to you. But I would recommend trying to remove at least the specific trigger itself. Victory3002 Play says, hi, how are you today? Very good, thank you. I hope you're doing good. Oh, and then you say, I think I'm good. I've started using ChatGPT. That's great, I love it. I used it to help me make my manifestation routine. It provided me some affirmations, overall ABD detailed tips. That's cool. To be fair, I didn't actually think about ChatGPT for manifestation. I can't see what would be wrong with it. I mean, if you think the affirmations that it provides you and the routine it provides you are useful for you, then by all means go ahead with it, because you obviously say down here, what do you think about it? I think ChatGPT is great. There are a lot of other AI tools out there that are also just as useful in other regards, but I think ChatGPT is a great tool. Whether it's still great for manifestation, I have no idea. I haven't looked into it, but if you feel like it works for you, then by all means continue using it. Empowered Sister says, at Jakeri Snow, I still visualize, I guess, when my desires cross my mind, but I'm really not obsessed as I was before. Like I say, definitely a good place to be. Hey, You're Beautiful said, I learned in therapy that I have an internal story of being ashamed of who I am, so I'm constantly trying to prove myself to others. Do you know of any practical steps I can take to address this? The first thing that's kind of practical, and this one requires a little bit of discipline and definitely stepping out of your comfort zone, is when you notice that you're trying to prove yourself to others, stop yourself and ask yourself, what do you actually want, or what would be the best thing for you and not for them? And then trying to consciously do that, because until you start addressing that behavior, you're going to continue to stay in that cycle. So that's something you can practically do in the moment. As for how you can kind of change that story internally, I recommend you revising some of that stuff. Now, I know that the manifestation community makes revision some big woo-woo wizardry stuff, but I think that revision really doesn't have to be that crazy and over the top. I literally have and I've worked with a lot of clients recently actually on this topic of just having like a simple affirmation. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, one of these structured affirmations is what I gave on one of those little Ask Me Anything questions. And it's just like an affirmation that revises the past, changes the future, and I will explain that in a second, but changes the future, covers your insecurity or your concern right now, and then for your desired reality. So taking your situation where you say you're constantly trying to prove yourself because you're ashamed of who you are, I would make a revision affirmation such as, I always have been and I always will be more than confident and secure within myself, which allows me to focus on only me, or this is just off the top of my head, so the word it might not be great, which allows me to focus on only me, or which allows me to operate as myself when dealing with the people I'm close to, or something. Like I said, that's just off the top of my head, so the wording may not be great. But the aim for this revision affirmation is by saying I always have been, and then obviously implying that you always have been secure and confident within yourself. You're changing your story of the past of saying that you were ashamed and that's why you tried to prove to yourself to others. By saying you always will be, it kind of implies that going forward it will be that way, continuously. So you haven't got to worry about falling into old patterns. Covering like the confident and secure addresses the limited belief that you have within, and then to be yourself around the people you're close with. Obviously, I just threw that out there, but that covers the problem that you're having. Now, what this affirmation does, and I understand that wasn't the best example, but hopefully I at least gave you some context, is it revises the past, it addresses the future. And I know that I literally just said don't do future affirmations. The reason why I've done it here is just to kind of give your conscious that mind that security of knowing that going forward, it will also follow the same suit. And by revising the past, you will know that you're changing that story, which will change your current experience anyway. But it revises the past, it covers the future, it covers the concern or the self-concept whole, and then it covers the desire. And that to me is just like a really good affirmation to address everything and change that story going forward, in a sense of revising it without making it this whole trying to visualize your scene going a different way and all of that kind of stuff that most people that do revision try to do. But doing those two things, I think, would be very beneficial to you, because you'll be changing the mentality as well as creating a new sort of neural pathway by taking new actions. I think it was Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So at some point, you're going to have to notice when you're proving yourself to others or trying to, and start going, no, let me prove myself to me. And then by doing that, then you'll start create that wiring within your mind to say, this is how I'm going to start operating going forward. Take a breath. It skipped. One sec. Just got to find where I was. Where was I? Okay, cool. Jakeri Snow says, at Empower Sister, same. I don't have a routine or anything. Yeah, you don't need one. Sometimes they're good if you kind of find yourself, especially for people that are new to manifestation, you just don't know when to do stuff. Routines are great, but you definitely don't need one. Autumn says, when you're living in the delusions of your manifestation, can you start hallucinating, lol, or can it affect your mental state? Thank you. For hallucinations, I can't personally say that I've ever had hallucinations. I've heard people say that they had like visions of certain things happening and stuff like that. But in terms of hallucinations, me personally, never experienced it. As for can it affect your mental state, I personally don't think so. I think the only thing when it comes to manifestation, it can affect someone's mental state is when they become very obsessed with something. But quite often, even if manifestation didn't exist, a lot of those people would probably be quite obsessed with their desire anyway for quite a while after. After especially for a person if it's losing the person. However, no, I don't think any kind of form of manifestation really will affect your mental state. I think that we operate enough in the 3D reality to kind of be brought back to reality enough to not go crazy, but that's just my take on it. Priya says, what is the best way to stop things with SP flowing in a negative fashion after reacting to the 3D? The first thing is to become aware of why you reacted and what you felt like justified within reacting, like why you felt some sort of negative story within yourself was validated and therefore reacting. Work on that element of yourself, because when you start working on the things that cause these reactions, you'll probably react to them a lot less going forward. So that's like the first thing that I would recommend. The second thing I would recommend is to try and take your focus away from the 3D. Stop looking at how things are flowing negatively and try to remove your attention from it and just focus on your end result, or focus on things being great, or focus on something that's more desired. Because then, you're kind of cutting that cord. You're no longer feeding the energy to the negative circumstances that are going forward. You're cutting that cord, and then you focus on what you want to experience. And as a result, going forward, the experience will be different. Those would be my two things that I would recommend, because the last thing that you want to be doing, and obviously as best you can, to just stop worrying about the fact you reacted to 3D. It happened. So what? You can revise it if you want to, but circumstances don't matter. So there's no point using it as reference for anything, because you will just create more of it. Instead, use your end result, or use some self-concept affirmations or something as a reference, and allow the 3D to mold to that, instead of using the reaction as a reference and then allowing the 3D to reality to mold to that. H says, I clean to cope with anxiety. That's quite a cool little idea. And I suppose that, at least your house will be quite clean once you're done having an anxiety like spiral. Hey, You're Beautiful says, like the live with a bunch of different colored thumbs. Absolutely. If you could like the live, it definitely helps. Katie Johnson says, morning, you two. Dreams. I've had the most insane and vivid, not all dirty, lol. Lucid dreams normal when manifesting? Is it a sign of birds before land? Am I crazy? So for me personally, I think dreams are more just an amalgamation of kind of what's been going on in your thoughts during the day, whether it's conscious or unconscious ones. The reason why I say that it's kind of that and nothing more is because a lot of people will say that they were thinking about certain things and then they dreamt about it. And then obviously that's that. But the reason why I think it's nothing more than that is because I've had so many dreams of like having stuff that never happened or hasn't happened yet. And then I've had so many dreams of like negative stuff that hasn't happened yet either. And these have been like really vivid dreams where I've like basically just remembered every detail as if it actually happened, and still it hasn't played out for me. So I don't think that dreams really matter. I think the vividness is probably just the story that your subconscious mind is picking up on based on, where you've been dominantly returning to during the day, whether it's been consciously or unconsciously. But as far as it goes, I don't think you're crazy. I think your subconscious mind is just showing you a mind movie. And I don't think it really means anything. I mean, you can see it as bed for four lands if that makes you like feel good and if that gives you like that confidence to go forward. But it's called conscious creation for a reason, because we kind of have to be conscious to create. But other than that, I think that just keep going forward with your end result, and eventually that will come into play, whether the dreams are going on or not. Because I've never had a dream that's actually stopped me manifesting or manifested.
So I was just going to say pretty much the same thing. But I think that dreams can be used. I don't think that they are as in like a vision of the future, but I definitely think they can be if you choose to use them in that way. So for example, the other day, not a good one, but for example, the other day I had a dream that my brakes didn't work in the car when I got to some red traffic lights, and I went to stop and I just slid straight through them, and then I eventually stopped. That was my dream. It was really vivid. It felt like I was actually physically doing it. I'm pretty sure my arms were up in the air like while I was led down. Because it felt so real. And because it felt so real, I continued to live in the idea. Like I couldn't get it out of my head. It felt so vivid. It felt like my foot was pressing down. It felt like nothing was working. Like the fear sat with me. And so in a way, I sat in it, and I continued to sit in it for the whole day. And then I got to it wasn't at traffic lights, but I went to go around a corner and I pushed the brake like I normally would. And it was just like a little bit looser than normal. And I pressed down again and it was a bit looser, and it just wasn't slowing down the way that the car would normally slow down. And I ended up kind of like slightly sliding to one side. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like bad or anything like that. But I think if you're having good dreams, it's a really good sign that your head is in the right place. So if you feel it really good inside yourself and in your dream it really feels real, hold on to it, keep it, wake up, stay in that state, keep reminding yourself of the dream, keep reliving your dream over and over again through the whole day, and use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Luck the Awesome says, thanks, Matt. Appreciated for answering my question. You're very welcome. Shaita says, thank you so much for the advice. Okay, one last question. Do I affirm step by step or just go directly to the end? I will always advise going to the end. The reason being, when you manifest from the end result, everything that happens to get you there will be automatically worked out for you by an infinite intelligence that can make anything happen at any time, any place. Which, even just saying it like that, shows you that it's really like anything can happen. So when you dictate the end result, you can enjoy the journey. However, when you focus on every single step, not only could it potentially take longer due to the impressions of your subconscious mind and then playing out in the 3D reality, think of it like this. For example, let's say that, manifesting a text is an apple tree, manifesting a date is a pear tree, and then manifesting relationship is a cherry tree. You get the text. Now you have to wait for the pear tree to grow. Now you have to wait for the cherry tree to grow. Now, if you just go straight to the end and that's just one big apple tree, now you only have to wait for one big apple tree to grow. Not a great analogy, but you kind of get where I'm going with.
I thought that one was good. I liked that one.
So because of that, manifesting in steps could potentially take longer. Now, this is obviously not always the case, but it could do. It can be more frustrating because you're trying to dictate every single little thing that happens. And if you manifest a text, there's no guarantee that that text will take you to the date. So therefore, you have to start manifesting the date, and then you get the date, but that doesn't mean, and then you kind of find yourself stuck in places each time. So it can be more frustrating. And overall, because you are not as smart as the infinite intelligence within you, you will probably make it work in a way that, like if you did do it in steps, that would be kind of meh. Whereas if you left it up to infinite intelligence, you will probably get it in the best possible way. Every desire that I've kind of gone straight to the end with and let it happen has always happened at the perfect time in a perfect way, or in a way that's like way better than I would have imagined. So for those three reasons alone, I would advise going straight to the end result. But there are people that do it in steps, and some people will advocate it, but I've never had a client that's enjoyed it, and I've never done it myself and enjoyed it. And the only times when I have manifested in steps, I can outright say that I got the manifestation, but then didn't get the next step because either A, I gave up through frustration, or it just took too long. And again, I just like, fuck this, and ended up just not focusing on it because I got stuck at each spot and I didn't like it. I didn't like getting a text and then being like, well, now what? Let's focus on the next step, and just waiting and waiting and waiting. So I would advise going straight to the end result. Oh, we've also had another donation. So Katie Johnson has donated $10. Thank you so much, Katie. Really appreciate a donation. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Matthew. A good dream is just a good dream. That's how I would see it. But if you want to use it as like a reference, then by all means. But don't ever use a bad dream as a bad reference, because that's just not gonna benefit you by any means. But if you can use something to benefit you, absolutely do so. But I think that, when you're conscious, that's when you're really creating. But thank you so much for the donation. I really, really appreciate it. Now I have to find where we were. But shows like a big red button that I could just take back to where I was.
A little bit lower.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Jacari Snow says, another creator says all the time, affirm and live your life. Yeah, I would definitely agree. Just affirm, live your life, enjoy each day as it comes, enjoy having those hobbies, enjoy spending time with your friends and family, and just affirm when you have the time to do so. If you're so focused on, let's say that you love doing swimming, if you're really focused on smashing out new records while doing swimming, your mind is probably not even going to be focused on your desire anyway, which means you're giving yourself that mental break. You're allowing yourself to relax, and you know that because you're not thinking of your desire, you are not removing your dominant state. Like I said earlier, having 10 thoughts a day and 6 of those being good is just as dominant as having 1,000 thoughts a day and 600 of them being good. So why make yourself free all the time to just think and have to think more thoughts and have to focus on more thoughts when you could be busy all throughout the day doing things that you enjoy, having less thoughts, therefore only needing to catch less thoughts? That's just how I see it. And I whenever I place my attention on like other things, those things that I'm manifesting at those times will manifest so much quicker.
I think as well, the more like fulfilled and good you can feel in yourself and in your life, the more fulfillment and good you will bring in. It's all about the states and stuff. So if you're like constantly doing good things and having good things like arrive to you, they're just going to keep flowing, and you're constantly living in that, fulfilling all of your own needs. So there is absolutely no desperate need for anything else. Why are you laughing?
One of the comments, I'll get to in a second.
There's absolutely no like desperate need for anything else, and you're not sat there sad and wondering where things are. They're just coming to you one after the other. And the more good you can bring in, the more good will keep coming. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
oh.
Star Falco, I really hope that's from Star Fox. If it is, you're my favorite. Says, what's the difference between toxic affirmations and healthy affirmations when it comes to SP? So I actually did mention this in the collaboration video that I did with I Am God LOA. After this live stream's gone live, go watch that video as well. But a toxic affirmation for an SP would be something like, they can't eat or sleep without me, or they're miserable without me, or they're never going to be happy without me, or, you know, their friends and family have abandoned them, so now they have to come back to me, stuff like that. Whereas a healthy one would be something along the lines of, my SP is happy, but they know they'd be happier with me, or something along the lines of, I'm in such a loving relationship with a specific person, because even that affirmation then implies that because it's a loving relationship, you're both getting the best out of this relationship, or I'm in a loving, fulfilling relationship, or things of that nature. Generally, if you were to say your affirmation to like a friend or your mum or something like that, how would you reckon they would react to it? If you think that they would be a bit like, oh, that's a bit weird, then you probably think it's toxic. For example, if I was to go to my mum and say, oh yeah, Katie can't live without me, she's miserable and she hates her life until she's with me, my mum will probably be like, all right, slow down, Rampton. Whereas like if I was to go to my mum and say, oh, you know, like Katie and I are in like a really nice relationship, it's like really fulfilling, my mum will probably be like, that's great, you know, I'm really happy for you. So try and kind of consider how the people would react to you saying the things you're saying to them as if it's the truth. That's probably a very easy way to see whether it's a toxic or healthy affirmation. However, I'd like to think we'd all be able to know when we're affirming from a toxic sort of fear standpoint as opposed to a healthy one. But hopefully that helps. The God says your sister's cute, and then Autumn says they're a couple at the God, and then the God was like, my bad. That's what I was checking at. Thank you very much though for calling my.
Similar.
No, your head's more square.
That's really rude. I think we have kind of somewhat similar eyes, like not color but shape. Definitely not similar noses though.
Yeah, I have a really big nose actually. It's the German genetics in me because my dad's side are from Germany.
A funny pig nose from the side, but not from the front. It's very strange.
But I will thank you for calling my partner cute. And then the God says, I'm 29 and it's scary turning 30. Luckily, I got a little ways off that. But 4 years from now, if you guys come back to this live stream, then I'll probably be like, turning 30. I'm a bit scared now. Sarah's looming. Yeah. Sarah says, if a lot of people getting engaged birds before land, or is it because of my age? Lol, I'm 30 and everyone keeps telling me it's an age thing. So I think everyone telling you it's an age thing is because they're not aware of manifestation. My opinion on that would be that it's a birds before land, just because I sort of understand how things work, like the bigger picture going on in the background. I would say that's generally a birds before land thing. But if you want to see it as a birds before land thing, great. If you don't want to get married and you're kind of concerned that you're manifesting marriage, then just see it as an age thing. You can just make things work in your favor, whether it's good or bad. The God says, at Sarah, just don't make any rush decisions. Yeah, definitely when it comes to marriage. You got to think that one through. Geneva says, you're definitely not old, Katie. I am 37. Wish I could be under 30 again. And yes, Matthew, you look alike my cousin, and only his beard is a bit longer. Do you want to answer your part first?
I don't really know what to say.
Oh.
I didn't really have anything to say, but yeah, no, I'm starting to feel very old. There's some things that I have been can't speak now. I have noticed is very different from early 20s to late 20s. Like doing particular things in your early 20s. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but like there are things that you do in your early 20s, and if you try and repeat them in your late 20s, it is just shocking how badly your body's like, nah, just can't do that. But yeah, no, I'm just gonna keep telling myself that I'm actually getting younger, and then
just gonna Benjamin Button myself.
Yeah, you'll all see me be younger again. I think if I just live in the state of being much younger than I am, I will never turn 30, or I will never look 30, or never
Yeah. And as for my part, if you go back into my older videos, I did have a bit of a longer beard. I was an absolute tramp. I hate it. I want to delete all of the videos.
That's kind of insulting to the cousin.
No, you know what I mean. I just went to myself.
I think we just insulted her completely. I was like, I'm never being old, and you're like, I'm not growing a beard. Sorry,
Geneva. Please stay. Yeah, we didn't mean it. No, I was just thinking about it because in my earlier videos, I do look so bad.
He was a bit of a scruff bum.
Yeah, I was unemployed and stuff at the time, so I was kind of just really embracing it. I was just really embracing just the idea of just like, I'm just gonna sit at home and play games all day because I was unemployed. Ugh, you know what, Katie, you might as well just break up with me again. Victory 302 Play says, as I've stated recently, I'll try to buy some cyberpunk type tarot deck and maybe some crystals. Give it a go. I mean, if you enjoy it, then by all means, go for it. The God says, at Geneva, how is dating at 37? Okay, so I see what she says. Erin Woodard says, robotic affirmation is good, right? Yeah. I mean, the thing with robotic affirmations is people sort of make out like they're the devil. But the thing that you have to consider is, in order for you to think about the word that you're saying, in order to make it affirm it, even when it's robotically, some part of your brain must be being used to conjure up the robotic affirmation, which means whether it's robotic or with feeling, you're still thinking, and it's your thoughts that create. Your thoughts dictate your state. Your state is what manifests. So if you're still thinking enough to affirm robotically, you're still thinking enough to put yourself in an end state. Drakari Snow says, yeah, I'm not in my 20s either, and time is the thing that freaks me out all the time. I know time doesn't matter. Scenes in movies when the dying character dies just after delivering a last message and whatnot. I need to shake this. I think that's one of those things that's like very difficult to shake, just because yes, time doesn't matter from a manifestation perspective, but we do live in kind of like a linear conscious time. You'll see your friends getting older, you'll see your kids getting older, or your the teachers you used to go to school, and parents. So you do see it all the time. So even though from a manifestation point it doesn't matter, I completely understand and empathize on the fact of time's ticking on. One thing that I actually have, and this is like a limiting belief that I've had to kind of work through a little bit. I'm 25. My band members are 28. And the idea of us being a successful band once we start kicking off kind of sits in my head. Is it possible because of our age? I feel like if you're trying to be like a metal band, a lot of the time, in order to become a really big one, you have to start when you're 16. That's this assumption that I've got based on all of the bands that I grew up with, or the ones that I liked when I was going through my beginning metal phase, were all really young. They were all between the ages of 18 to 21, sort of starting to get going, sort of thing. And now I look and I'm well, my band members are 28 and I'm 25. So I'm are we going to be able to do anything with these ages, or are we just going to be old men on a stage? So I just kind of so I do understand where you're coming from.
I think everybody has this weird assumption, which I've just started to fight now, that once you hit a particular age, you can't change your career, and you can't, do you know what I mean? Everybody seems to have it burnt into their brain, oh, well, once you get to 30, you're pretty much just stuck on that life track sort of thing. And it's not the case at all. You can start again. Obviously, you can't defy death. Death will come at the end sort of thing. But you can definitely start all over again. The idea of starting all over again a few years ago for me was terrifying, there is no possible way. And a few years ago, I was just a full-time parent kind of thing. And then now I have a job that I don't particularly like, but nobody likes working. Do you know what I mean? But I know at some point I will put all my effort into starting all over again in a whole different kind of career. There are definitely different things that I want to be. And yeah, so I'm fighting those assumptions. I really, really want to be a tattoo artist. But again, I have the same idea as Matt, where, oh, I should have started this when I was 18. This is when I should start. I should have been an apprentice at 18. And then by now I'd be a full-blown tattoo artist and, be doing amazing sort of thing. But everyone at any point of life can start all over again with anything. You can, no matter what. Even if you wanted to train in something you have never done before in your life, you can start again at any point. And that is just an assumption that it's not a personal assumption. It's a worldwide assumption. Once you have selected your career and you're 30, you've got to stick to it. But it's not the case at all. But yeah, that was just a bit of a ramble. Carry on.
Gonna answer a few more, and then we're gonna have to head off and stuff, the usual stuffs. I also lost where I was, so I do apologize. Give me 1 second. Tiger Claw says, hey, Matt and Katie, what are ways to tell if your subconscious is impressed? So I'll find one of the best ways to know that your subconscious is impressed, or at least impressing, is when your internal state starts to shift to match your end result. So this could look in the form of your unconscious thoughts will be more in line with what it is you want to experience. You'll be reactive a lot less to negative things going on in your 3D because internally it just doesn't bother you as much. You'll start seeing signs that like are sort of somewhat evidence of it. That's usually a very good like sign that it's impressing or it has been impressed, because your internal world shifts before your external. So if internally you start to feel different, then you know that your external is not far off from following. The god says, at Snow, I remind myself of mortality every day, which helps me enjoy the day to its fullest. My granny is 72 and it freaks me out she'll leave in the next 20 to 25 years. Well, there's still a long time to enjoy with her. I don't really know what else to say to that comment, but there's still a long time. So hopefully you have some good 20 to 25 years with her. And Geneva says, at the god, I'm not dating, so I don't know. Fair enough. Tiger Claw says, also, is there anything to tell you if you have any blockages regarding your desire? One very good sort of give that you have blockages is when you think of your desire, what are the first thoughts that come up? If you find yourself having thoughts that are kind of in line with limitations or doubts or fears or anything like that, that's usually a very good sign that those are your blockages, because that's where you feel that that's where your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, that's where your thoughts are going, which shows that's probably what your subconscious mind has stored. The story that has stored. Now, one thing I do want to preface is blocks don't actually exist in a sense of you can't manifest until you get past this thing. If you do focus dominantly on your end result and, work on your self-concept and all that kind of stuff, you will still be able to manifest regardless of the block that's in your way. However, if you do find it very difficult to look past this block, then addressing the block directly could be a very good thing for you. But that's usually a good way to find it. Drakari Snow says, I'm guilty of that, getting rid of all triggers so much so that I manifested him transferring somewhere else. Is that in line with the...
Oh, what you said earlier.
What?
What you said earlier about how you remove all the triggers from your life and end up just sat in a box.
Oh, I see why. Yeah. It's not a fun process, so hopefully they transfer back. Hopefully they come back. Luna says, hello, happy to catch the live. Happy to have you here. Any tips for being in the state of the wish fulfilled? One thing that I think that a lot of people need to remember is we are humans and we will naturally fluctuate states all day. You could be having the time of your life listening to Evacuate the Dance Floor in your car, and all of a sudden some really sad song by XXXTentacion will come on, and all of a sudden you're a sad boy or a sad girl. So just that alone shows that we are constantly fluctuating states. So when it comes to being in the state of the wish fulfilled, your best bet is to just do your best to redirect yourself back into that state when you notice yourself falling out. The more that you try to stay in that state at all times and kind of force it, you will notice yourself not in that state even more, and you will become frustrated with the process. You'll burn out. So what I recommend for being in the end state is to understand what your end state is, create those scenes and statements, the affirmations, the visuals, whatever it is that you like to do. And then when you notice you're out of it, redirect yourself back into it, enjoy it temporarily, and then go on about your day until you notice you're out of it again, and then go back in. And make it more an act of, oh, not in it, let me just place myself back in it, as opposed to, no, must stay in it, must stay in it, must stay in it, and kind of, beat yourself up when you find yourself falling out of it. Because manifestation is a dominant state. And as humans, we will naturally fluctuate all throughout the day. I cannot tell you how happy I am until the kids come home from school. It is unbelievable. So, we'll all fluctuate states. So just try to redirect yourself back to that end result. And that's all that can really be asked of you, really, using your scenes and statements. Gonna just cherry pick a couple of more just because we got to head off.
There's not that many, to be fair. A lot of it is conversations.
Oh, is it?
I think so, like between other people.
Well, I'm going to stop the conversations in a minute. Geneva says, oh, cool, I'm from Germany. That's cool. Whereabouts? I probably won't still be live to find out, but maybe comment out afterwards. I've always had like a massive fascination with Germany because my family on my dad's side are from there. I really want to move there one day. And it's always just been like this huge fascination to me, but I don't know. I don't know whether I'll ever move there. Obviously, with kids and stuff, it's a little bit more difficult to just pick up and go. So might have to go get the milk. Trying to find some other ones that I want to respond to. I want to respond to them all, but you know what I mean? Like trying to find the ones that aren't people talking to each other. Drakari Snow says, I will go search for that tramp video. To be honest, it's about the first 4 months of my entire YouTube career. Every single video, I just look like an absolute scruff. I hate it. And I want to delete all of the videos, but some of them do very well for me even now in terms of like views and clicks and stuff. So I can't, but I hate them. I hate them so much.
Redo them.
Just word for word. I'll just take down the script and just redo it. I might actually go back over some of my old videos. Might put up a poll about it and see what people think. Floor says, "Hey guys, thank you so much for the worksheets again. You're very welcome. Thank you for entering the competition." And I'm going to do these last two. Luna says, "Perfect, thank you. Basically, if you fall off the wagon, jump right back on." Yeah, absolutely. That's all that can be asked of you. And Geneva says, "Because you asked, I'm from Munich, Bavaria. If you don't read it, I'll comment on the live later." Munich, that's really cool. Stupid question. Is the Munich that you're talking about the same place that the football team Bayern Munich is part of? I'm going to wait until you answer some other questions. Because if so, that's actually the football team that I support, because I always like the goalkeeper. I don't know if he's still the goalkeeper for them, because I don't really watch football, but the goalkeeper was always my favorite goalkeeper. Yes, it's the same Munich. That's cool. I can leave the live happy now. Thank you everyone so much for showing up to this live stream. Thank you so much, O'Shea from Occult Cat TV and Katie Johnson, for your donations. Again, they are hugely appreciated. I always never think that I appreciate them enough when I speak about it. Like, oh, thank you so much for donating and stuff. But just know that they are hugely appreciated. Every donation is. And for the rest of you that show up to the live streams and the YouTube videos and everything day after day, week after week, you're also very much appreciated as well. We couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you so much to all of the OGs, all of the new people. It really does mean a lot. And that's why we do the giveaways. And that's why I try to put out as much content and community posts and these live streams and everything, just to make sure that you guys are aware that everything that you do for us, we do hugely appreciate it. So apologies that we couldn't answer. You guys torment Barca. Good. Apologies we couldn't answer every question. Obviously, we've got some stuff to do. We got to go have dinner and all that, like the usual. But if your question was dire, by all means, just comment it on the live stream once the live stream is posted. And if you really want to go deeper into it, everything, by all means, sign up for coaching with me and we can work one-on-one. And we can get you to a better position than where you are now, and hopefully get you some success stories and some results, because that's what we're here to do. But thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you again for the donations, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.